When you have children, you can pretty much count on these couple of things. A love like none other, one you just can't put into words, and every time you turn around, you, him, or her, or both are sick.
Are going to be sick.
Yes.
Well, something that you may not count on is that depending on the infection, some children can actually have a greater risk of pediatric stroke. Researchers say 17% of pediatric patients who experience an ischemic stroke had an infection the week before. Ischemic stroke is the most common type of stroke and occurs when the artery to the brain is blocked. They also say that while pediatric strokes are rare, being under-vaccinated also puts children at high risk.
Well, Jimmy, being under-vaccinated is certainly on the top of many parents' minds as the cases of measles continues to make waves. Since January, there have been 121 cases reported in 17 states, including here on Delmarva. In 2014, the CDC says the country experienced a record number of cases, with more than 640 reported in 27 states. They add this is the greatest number of cases since 2000, when measles elimination was reported. And while the debate of whether to vaccinate or not remains heated, a growing number of health professionals are issuing the following warning.
This is one of the most contagious infections.
Add one more voice to a growing list of health professionals, including officials from the Centers for Disease Control, with a warning. There is a measles outbreak. It is expanding at an alarming rate, and it is entirely preventable.
If you're not vaccinated and you're near somebody who's contagious, you have a 90% chance of becoming infected.
Delaware Public Health Director Dr. Carol Rattay is following developments nationwide. The CDC is now reporting more than 100 cases of measles across 14 states, stemming from an outbreak traced to Disneyland in California. Since then, more isolated incidents in the Northeast. An infected college student boarded an Amtrak train in New York. A Delaware woman comes back to Newcastle County with the infection from traveling abroad.
It happens because there are more unvaccinated individuals in our population now than, unfortunately, there was like a decade ago.
Dr. Rattay says an anti-vaccination movement started over the last 15 years.
A segment of the population that really felt that the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine was causing an increase in autism. We have more science now than ever before to help us say there just is no connection.
In most of the current measles cases, the infected were not vaccinated. Dr. Rattay calls it frustrating because the science is so stark. One more note from Dr. Rattay. She says if a child has received both doses of the vaccine, they are 97% protected.
97%, that's pretty good.
It is.
But even with that protection rate, we know many moms and dads are and have debated the safety of the MMR vaccine. It has even turned political now. Potential Republican presidential candidates Chris Christie and Rand Paul both came under fire for saying it should be a parent's choice whether to vaccinate their kids. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton responded saying the science is clear, the earth is round, the sky is blue, and hashtag vaccines work. Let's protect all our kids. Hashtag grandmother knows best. Now someone else is throwing in his 2 cents worth. Retired Johns Hopkins pediatric neurosurgeon and potential GOP presidential hopeful, Ben Carson.
I think the benefit to risk ratio is far in favor of vaccinations. I do understand that there had been some questionable information out there a few years ago, but I think that's been largely put to rest.
Dr. Carson adds that while he understands parental rights, he says public health and safety are extremely important. Now, public risk aside, many parents still are fighting for that parental right that Dr. Carson spoke of.
Yeah, including this next mom you're about to meet. As a matter of fact, she says not only will she not be vaccinating her son anytime soon, she tells reporter Dan Simon she believes getting the measles may actually be better than getting the vaccine.
Your son is now 8 years old. Has he ever been vaccinated for anything?
He's never been vaccinated for anything, no.
Kelly McMiniman is a single mother in Marin County, California, an area with an unusually high number of parents who refuse to vaccinate their children. Some schools approaching 50% when it comes to personal exemptions. We met Kelly to try to understand her concerns about immunizing her 8-year-old son Tobias, however unsupported they are in the medical community.
When people see this tonight, they may accuse you of being an irresponsible parent. What do you say to them?
If I believed that my decision was actually doing any harm to other children, I wouldn't make this decision. But I don't believe that.
Like others against vaccines, Kelly says she is convinced that they can cause multiple complications, including cancer, nervous system disorders, and the familiar myth of autism. She says it happened with her friend's child.
From the day that they had the MMR, from that day forward, he started to exhibit signs of autism, which he had never exhibited before.
A belief thoroughly debunked by the medical community. Kelly tells me her son may in fact be better off in the long run by getting a disease like measles.
It may be better for the children to contract these when they're children and build their immunity.
But don't tell that to this Marin County pediatrician who refuses to accept patients who don't vaccinate.
I've seen children with brain damage from measles, and I never want to see that again.
I'm not here to debate you. I'm here to understand your point of view. But what do you say to those who argue that the medical research is overwhelming, that vaccines are safe and they prevent serious diseases?
I think it's very difficult for me and many other people in this country to trust the medical system when it's largely become a for-profit industry.
Distrust is a common refrain from those opposed to vaccines, which Kelly insists she's not. She just doesn't want them for her child.
How would you feel if your son got the measles and then got another person sick? He infected somebody else with the measles and that person ended up being really sick and died. How would you be able to handle that as a parent, knowing that?
That would be absolutely awful if something like that happened, just as it would be absolutely awful if I accidentally hit another car and a child died in that car crash. I don't think that my son is going to put any other children at risk either.
Dan Simon adds there are a lot of people who feel the same way Kelly does, and they just want some understanding as to why they feel the way they do. He adds, believe it or not, there are actually some third world countries like Iraq, Chad, New Guinea, and Syria that have higher child vaccination rates than areas right here in the U.S. I don't know. It's interesting.
That's incredible right there. Okay, so we've heard from the side pushing to vaccinate. We have heard from the side pushing for the right not to vaccinate. Now it's time to hear from the side who would like to vaccinate, but they just can't.
It makes me wonder how they would.
Some parents, like Jasmine Hollingsworth, have reason to worry. Her 7-year-old Kai has had a liver transplant and is unable to get the vaccine because of a weak immune system. Any exposure to measles could kill her.
Anything close by. I mean, even just the 14 different states that it's affected. I think over 100 people right now, and it spread so quickly. Yes, very nervous.
The CDC says all children should get the measles vaccine between 12 and 15 months, and so should adults who have never had it before or those traveling overseas. There are rare, minimal side effects. Not getting the vaccine risks exposing those who are much more vulnerable.
Which is exactly why we're so concerned about children in particular going into school or the playgrounds or the places where children go and be exposed to otherwise healthy children who are quite capable of acquiring measles if they haven't been vaccinated and transmitting to the children that we see.
Many states mandate the vaccine before children can go to school, but there are exceptions. Hollingsworth has been pointing out the danger in not getting the vaccine, and it has produced some electronic hate mail.
I've been told that I'm selfish, that I want them to risk the lives of their child to save the life of mine. I've been told that that some people will have to die, that's the natural course of nature.
Okay, so after listening to all of this, we have a few more facts for you. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says to best protect your child from the measles, they must receive 2 doses of the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, or MMR. The first dose, as you heard, is to be given between 12 and 15 months. The second dose should occur between 4 and 6 years of age. As for vaccination requirements, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia allow for medical and religious exemptions. Now take a look at this. It shows how the states break down individually. Maryland has a high vaccination rate with more than 95% of the children vaccinated. Delaware's next with a rate of more than 94%, and in Virginia, more than 88% of children have received the MMR vaccination.
All right, well, still ahead on Delmarva Live, February is Black History Month, and we honor a local woman who's made history right here on Delmarva. Cambridge Mayor Victoria Jackson Stanley has seen her city go from a hotbed of civil unrest to a tourist destination location. We'll learn more about that journey and what she sees for the future of Cambridge.
And a little later on, I like what I'm seeing in our future. We are in the Delmarva Live kitchen making peppered beef tenderloin complete with creme brulee for dessert. The noise you're hearing right now is probably my stomach from this couch. Delmarva Live, we'll be right back.